Archaeodeath, Death and Memory, Past and Present, with Professor Howard Williams.
In the Star Wars universe, the past has power to allure and hidden treasure which promises to unlock secrets of an entire lost and hidden planet. Archaeology Professor Howard Williams here, returning from another archaeological exploration of the Star Wars universe, focusing on the Archaeology of Skeleton Crew, a recent 8-part series that explores the world after the fall of the Galactic Empire, where pirates are rampaging the hyperspace lanes, and where 4 children on a planet of At-Atin find themselves embroiled in various adventures to return home and to defend their planet against pirates. So, as a review of its archaeology, I'm going to link this to my blog post, which goes into much more detail and which gives an overview of the backstory of the plot and the characters. But here I want to simply introduce you again to what is archaeology in relation to fictional science fiction worlds in books, art, video games, films, television shows, and why the Star Wars universe is an important focus for archaeological inquiry. Because the archaeology of our world, of the contemporary, not only involves looking into how we investigate and manage and are destroying our planet, our material cultures, our architectures, our landscapes of the 20th, 21st century, where there's archaeological research looking at people's interaction with material culture and built environments and landscapes, but also it involves understanding these fictional representations that often draw on the past. So to reiterate what I've said in previous videos, archaeology is the study and preservation of past remains that reveal the societies and their environment of past times, to understand and explain those societies, to engage and educate people today about those past places, to foster study and understanding. But to do this, we have to understand archaeology's place in the contemporary and in popular culture, and part of that is investigating archaeology in and of the genre of science fiction, as well as in its own right as a part of our contemporary world. And the Star Wars, as a globally popular franchise of films, television series, books and video games, is worth investigating for its rich and complex material cultures, built environments and landscapes from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So this is a fictional, futuristic past. And archaeologists have tackled various aspects of this already, looking at film sets and material cultures in our world linked to the the franchise. Thinking about archaeologists and antiquarians in the Star Wars universe as adventurers, detectives and revelators, thinking about archaeological inspirations from prehistoric, ancient, medieval and modern eras in the immersive world building and culture building of Star Wars, and thinking about archaeological and heritage themes in the Star Wars universe that link to our world and the role of the past in negotiating the present, looking at colonialism and the appropriation of the past and indigeneity and uses of the past as resistance to revitalise indigenous practices. So we are seeing in the Star Wars universe a galaxy in crisis, with a fragmented deep time archaeological history of change and collapse that very much links to themes in the way we study the human past. And we also see the power of things, material cultures, architectures and landscapes, as ruins, as relics in a gritty futuristic context. So these are clues, they have power, they can be evoked, they have significance, including treasure, including sacred artifacts, including ruinous spaces. And so these are themes that are played out differently in different versions of the Star Wars universe, and I've already addressed some of them in past discussions of the Acolyte, the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and now of course also Andor, where I have pursued a whole series of videos and blog posts looking at Andor Season 1 in a single post, and then 5 videos looking at Andor Season 2. So looking at the plot, places and themes in Skeleton Crew, we're looking at 4 kids who accidentally find a buried ship, so they do a bit of amateur archaeology, and they depart their idyllic Earth-like homeworld of At-Atin on autopilot and find themselves hyperdriving into the galaxy. And they're trying to find a way home, and they come across this pirate droid, SM-33, and they realise that they are on a pirate ship, and they have to enlist the help of former pirate captain and renegade Jod, who goes by many names, to help them get home, despite them having strong suspicions that he's a wrong 'un. They locate the secret coordinates of At-Atin, they return, but they're double-crossed by Jod, and they are then captured by the pirates and have to fight their way out, and they call in the help of the New Republic to save the day. And there's three sort of archaeological themes in this of a material culture across the various planets and locations. So we see At-Atin as this idyllic fossilized world, sort of trapped in time, isolated from the galaxy, hidden behind a barrier, doing the work for the old republic that has long gone, and they don't realize it, producing their mint, their treasure. So this becomes this enters into the legends of the galaxy as the lost treasure planet, and is sought out by pirates. The Onyx Cinder itself, the ship of the pirate captain Tad Remond, a legend in himself, and SM-33 is revealed as his droid. Port Borgo, a sort of spaceport for pirates. The Observatory Moon, which we visit and encounter a distinctive character who is like an antiquarian and has an antiquarian role, and I think that's a very important dimension. It's a rare example of someone who has the wisdom and knowledge of the galaxy. This is Keem, a sort of what's called a sort of bird woman, as they describe it, an owl. A talking owl. And then we have the At-Akron, one of the other planets that is concealed by the Old Republic, but things go wrong and they descend into chaos and conflict. And we see the Lanupa Spa and its dump. And across these different locations we have the material culture themes of dystopian, piratical and antiquarian that sort of frame how the storyline world builds with archaeological themes, stereotypes from our world of pirates but put into space. And so these space pirate themes are mixed with different versions of dystopia, of worlds set apart from the galaxy where things go wrong, or equally horrific is when they don't go wrong but they actually stay maintained and doing their thing. So I want to explore these and give you a sense of how in this fictional TV show the amount of intense detail that's gone into to create this extension of the Star Wars universe, knowing there are fans who are hungry for the detail and the storyline, I think is exceptional. And I think that regardless of what people think of the show and the story, the investment in creating believable, immersive worlds that draw on aspects of the archaeological past from our planet and the real world archaeology, it means that these shows can be used for educational purposes. They can be windows into understanding archaeology as a discipline, as well as being pieces of modern entertainment that reflect our society's biases, priorities, stereotypes and ideals. So there's many ways we can look at this as an archaeologist, but we can use this as a way of reflecting on our contemporary world and our attitudes to the past, as well as using it to get people into archaeology. So let me take you on a journey into the various different dystopias first of all, and we start with At-Atin, which is the home world, and we see it's a very regularized, and I go into my blog, I go into much greater detail, but it's very much like a Nordic aesthetic of simple regulated landscape with suburban areas with curving streets mixed together with woodland, and a central sort of civic centre with a plaza, administrative block and the supervisor's tower set apart. There are but we start off seeing the relatively idyllic and privileged home life of detached houses with kids having access to all sorts of resources and toys and space, open plan, very much a sort of slightly retro aesthetic, because I think they were supposed to think of At-Atin as old. It's supposed to have been set up long ago, and they're playing with that and giving a bit of a 70s vibe here. And we see the home life as well as art, which is very much similar. It almost like, even though these are private dwellings, they're giving you the sense that the art is very much corporate or governmental. So there's that sense of sort of subtle authoritarianism within the system. So the art here is matched by the later manuscript that Kim shows them, and some of the public art, and showing a tranquil, idyllic world of species at peace. It does speak of almost the sci-fi equivalent of having a portraiture of the monarch on your mantelpiece. So I think there's that sense of subservience, subordination, a society under control, and that is very much reflected in the open plan, but clearly managed estates that are clearly curated and planned as one element. So you have this entranceway features implying a sort of gates, like a modern capitalist privileged estate, where and there's public art. So you get that sense of these are individual private houses with borders, but they're open and they're part of a planned estate. Here's another view which gives that same impression. So this is we don't get a full sense of hierarchy. Not everyone gets to live like this, or do they? We don't get a full sense of that, but we do get a sense of order and control and planning. And again, with shots over the nighttime city, regulation with the supervisor's tower and the administrative block in the distance. And so this suburban living of these kids, and here we see Neil and Wim, provides that sort of domestic idyllic, but still with hints of authoritarian control behind the scenes. And then we move into the more centralised spaces, a main artery going straight towards the supervisor tower and the civic centre with the administrative block. One gets a sense that there are private cars, there are private sort of hover cars. There's statuary, which is never fully explained. There is a school, and we start to see the authoritarianism with the droids in control of everything, guiding students in, and unnecessarily sort of goading them in the right direction or herding them. We see civic spaces with art. We see the school in early morning with a patrolling droid, so we get this sense of a controlled, regulated environment where there's no crime, no violence, and everything's under control. Droids hover in every corner, even in the school, and they are there's that sense of waterways, but they're carefully controlled and managed. There's variation in the buildings, suggesting a development over time, but a clear order and control. So very much a benign, civic, well-structured society. And we see here another statue at a crossways at night. It very much looks like a European, or particularly Northern European, I would say Nordic city in terms of its civic architecture and arrangements. Less so than North American, but certainly a well-ordered civic environment. And here again, we get that sense. I mean, I suppose there are smaller cities planned in one go in parts of the US that could fit into this model with a grid layout, but I think this does have European aesthetics too. And of course, but beneath the horror of this is that this planet is not in contact with anyone else. They don't know that the old republic has fallen, the empire has risen, the empire has gone, and that there's chaos in the galaxy with the new republic trying to reassert itself. So they are living in blissful isolation. So when we finally uncover their mint, they are producing dataries, these small tablets of gold coinage, without any knowledge of what to do with them. No one's coming to collect them, so they're producing vault upon vault upon vault upon vault. And this is just waiting to fail. So at one level, the inevitable piratical attack is salvation, because it breaks the cycle and forces the subordinate humanoid species, Wendell and Under Secretary Farah, to make a decision to break the barrier to end their isolation. But here's just one of the vaults, and we're told there's many of the thousands of these vaults that exist and operate within, are being constructed. And so we get this world that on the surface looks benign and ordered, but beneath the surface there's a sort of unfolding chaos. 1,139 vaults, we're told, and the Republic emissary, who is obviously Jod, pretending to be the Republic emissary, just can't believe the amount of production and the amount of wealth that's been stored on what is real. The treasure is real on this legendary treasure planet. But that's only one of two dystopias that we encounter, because the counterpoint to that, opposing the fate of At-Atin, kept in stasis and control and regulation by a droid supervisor. There's no human in control. It's utterly AI droid operated, and people utterly subordinate within a faux utopia. We have At-Akron, which is one of the other 9 jewels of the Old Republic that are planets hidden deliberately to protect them. And we don't know if this was also a mint or there was some other activity going on here, but we're never told. But At-Akron is encountered on their way back home. And here we encounter, from the very get-go, when they land, a planet that has reverted to a dystopia, where there's constant warfare, and it looks like a wasteland with dust heavy in the air, destroyed buildings, and I think it's rather appropriate. The first piece of material culture signals that. A children's playground, but utterly abandoned. No children are playing here because childhood has been cancelled on At-Akron. Children, as we learn, are treated as adults and are warriors from the get-go. So we see houses that are near identical to At-Atin, but with makeshift roofs. And it's Neil that recognises that because a tree is growing in the middle of this abandoned structure, this didn't just happen. This isn't At-Atin. That's their only clue. This happened a long time ago, and whatever, but chaos befell At-Akron. It has long happened, and the population has collapsed. So in a post-apocalyptic world, so we see comparable. They don't seem to recognise it, but the statues are almost identical to the ones on At-Atin, but this one's broken. And here, their school, they do recognise, in this case, their school, but rather than it being an extant building for education, it's been turned into, it's peppered with damage from conflict, and the group they encounter are living on the roof. They are then taken to the supervisor's tower, which they remember the groups they encounter on At-Akron. They find there are 2 combating groups who remember the old days, and they understand that the supervisor's tower is what they call the fallen sanctum, and they even have a recognition through the girl they encounter, Haina, that each generation thinks that the next generation is getting sicker. So they know their planet isn't simply reverted to a state of chaos, it's dying. They're on a stage towards utter degradation. It's dirty, there's food is rationed, living conditions are bleak, there's pollution. We don't hear about it, but presume there's infant mortality that's high. There's no care, there's no treatment of children, there's no support. They're given training with huge guns. And so they enter into this world of despair that's one of the planets that's lost, but is no longer protected, but no one knows what it is. It's just an old relic in the corner of the galaxy that no one visits. We do get a hint that they trade weapons for hides with people off-worlders, but so they're not isolated, but they are utterly without hope. So we meet the Troiks, who are led by General Strix and their daughter Haina, and they seem utterly they're utterly focused on herding, and the EOPs are their creatures they herd, and they're fighting against a rival group. And the Hatan seem to be more agriculturalist, because we learn they have granaries, so there may be a sense that these are not just competing groups with the same subsistence system, that they are operating as sort of with different economies within the same space. So that's never revealed. But the civic authority is broken down. There's no droid control. It's a chaos. It's anarchy. But it also is not ended. It's in an ongoing decline, and it's violent and it's destitute. But it holds the secrets. It's a ruinous landscape that holds secrets. So we have this sense that this is a landscape in which the story a clue to At-Atin's location can be uncovered. And so what we have in these 2 worlds that survive, that they're encountered in the show, is 2 visions of dystopia, really. The control of droids and civilization is a dystopia in itself, versus the chaos of what happens when civilizations fall. And I think therefore this is This very much reflects on a lot of anxieties and stereotypes and reflections on past ancient cultures that we encounter in the archaeological record. Namely, how we talk about them in their times of golden age and success versus how we think about them in times of decay, decline and collapse. And so I think Skeleton Crew as a TV show really captures a lot of our science fiction reflections on what is a civilization and what happens when a civilization collapses, stereotypes that are deep in many different literary genres and visualizations, and that play through in terms of our thinking about past civilizations, whether it's the Bronze Age, whether it's the Iron Age, whether it's the ancient world or the Middle Ages, and how we see civilizations rise and fall. So this is my first of two videos I'm going to do about Skeleton Crew. In the second post, I'm going to look at piratical and antiquarian material cultures, where we'll look at how they represent pirates in relation to stereotypes from the historical and archaeological record, and treasure, as well as antiquarian aspects of the show with the observatory moon. But I hope this was of interest, and I hope you look at the blog post where I've reflected on this further, and you follow for more.
Sadly, we're all going to die. But while you're waiting, why not follow Archaeodeath? Subscribe now on YouTube.